Welcome back, fellow travelers. Today I've got another new unit video for you all. It's Richard, the King of Riven. He's a swordsman who can buff and debuff. And he's actually the first memory unit of the game. If you don't know, a memory unit is a unit which appears in the story and you can only get for a limited time. Kind of like the Sacred Place banners, but a different type. So if you really want to have him, which I can totally understand, you should be putting all your rubies into him. So first off, let's look at his stats. So comparing Richard to Lars and Fior, he has some pretty good stats overall. His physical attack is kind of in between Lars and Fior. His physical defense is higher, his elemental defense is higher, and his speed is higher as well. His crit takes a massive hit though, but he's not that much for critical hits anyway. His speed is second only to Joshua as a sword unit, which is pretty great because Joshua isn't that great a unit. So, great stats overall for Richard. Next up, let's have a look at his passives. So Richard has some pretty nice passives, both of them do two things, which is pretty unheard of. First off, his first skill allows him to get an extra turn on every buff and debuff he deals out. And the second skill gets a 15% physical attack, sword and spear damage if he's at full HP. This will also apply if he is in the back row. Insanely good passive. So the reason why Richard is such a good unit is because he has a lot of versatile skills. He has a few nuking options. He has a 3-hit lightning attack, a self-heal which also buffs him, a full front row buff for physical attack, sword and polearm damage for 20%, insanely good. He also has 2 sword attacks on random targets which debuff the physical attack and the sword resistance. Insanely good for debuffing bosses, for instance. So his ultimate is a very powerful sword nuke on a single enemy, and it also raises the sword and spear damage of the entire front row by 10% and at 15% at the max level. The ultimate and the front row buff should allow your entire party to get a max increase of spear and sword damage, making him a very great unit to buff those two types. Next up, let's have a look at his accessory. His accessory is called New King's Cloak, and it provides some pretty nice stats, as well as 15% sword damage up and an automatic HP regen. Looking at this, I'd say it's better to go for Awakening 4 before trying to go for Max Ultimate. That's because you can already reach the 30% buff cap without maxing his ultimate, making the extra 5% kind of useless. The only thing you could get from it is a slightly faster charge, but nonetheless I'd say go for A4 first and then try to max out his ultimate. Next up is the voice actor. He is voiced by Takamasa Mogi, who doesn't really do that much in anime world. He voices a lot of side characters or mob characters. And I don't mean mob psycho, I mean background characters. He's not that big a name though. However, he does voice Tsubaki from Fire Emblem. And also in Octopath Champions of the Continent he voices Kurtz, Julio and Richard. So he has 3 voices on his belt, which is pretty high for this game. So is Richard a good unit or not? In fact, Richard is one of the best units in the entire game. He has a 3-hit lightning attack which allows you to shield shave a little bit, 2 nuking options as well for his sword and lightning, and he has a very nice buff for 20% for physical, spear and swords. Which also means that he can reach the 30% max buff cap for all of those 3 stats. He has 2 debuffs as well, so you can actually reach a 90% damage increase for sword units and a 75% damage increase for spear units. Imagine using that at the top tower, for instance, for warriors. It's gonna make those fights so much easier. In fact, I'd say he's pretty much irreplaceable in Japan right now. Great unit, and if you have any rubies, I suggest you try and get him. And with that, it's the end of the video. So if you're still watching, I want to thank you so much for watching. I hope we get Fior EX next, because she is wearing a swimsuit and I just love that. So anyways, I hope to see you next time. If you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel. It really helps me out and I greatly appreciate your feedback and your kind words. And I hope to see you next time. So bye!